So real quick, before we get to the games, I just want to say, first things first, a lot of people ask me what my settings are. So I'm going to be doing over like, not necessarily the gameplay. I mean, I guess I can give you guys my gameplay settings, but it's not anything crazier than most stuff. I'm an MNK player. So two things that I pretty much always keep on or keep off is auto sprint. The reason why we do auto sprint off is because when I walk, when you're like sneaking up on somebody and you walk, you don't want to be heard, right? So if you have auto sprint on, if you're trying to sneak up on somebody, you're constantly just being really loud. When I can just walk up and still kind of maintain like a really good speed. That's the reason for that. As well as weapon auto cycle on empty. You should never have that on, ever. Never, ever, ever have that on. You should always be able to switch your guns manually. But that's pretty much about it. Reticle I like to customize. I like to have like a green one. Colorblind mode, Tritanopia. It's just a personal preference. I just like it sometimes. On my movement keys and my ADS sensitivity, as of right now, I just put everything at a 1.5 and a 0.9 ratio. This right here is all personal preference. I do think that per op ADS sensitivity on M and K is pretty important. I think it could definitely help you a lot, and you can kind of really customize this to your sensitivity, which is, you know, as everyone should. As your settings go for the movement, again, I like to think this is all personal preference. The reason I have my settings the way I do, I have W on my mouse wheel up so I can tap strafe. I have jump on my mouse wheel down so I can bunny hop heal. My crouch is on my mouse, which is this button right here. So while I'm fighting, I can basically be able to keep shooting people while also easily hitting my crouch button. My ultimate ability is the same ultimate ability that you always see. Pretty much the rest of the settings that you see, it's all just personal preference. You know, survival item, I put it to T. Inspect weapon, I like when I'm moving and I'm rotating. Personally, I just like to do this. You'll see a lot of pros. We kind of have like a thing where we just always do. Or if you're playing Wraith, you can just kind of like inspect and just kind of spin the knife. So that's why I kind of have my inspect on F. I can just easily tap it, very ADHD like. I do have ADS on toggle. So the reason why I have ADS on toggle personally is when I'm holding down the ADS. So basically I just tap the button, right? A lot of times you can get out of ADS by switching weapons. There's things in Apex that allow you to get out of ADS pretty quickly. But for the most part, the reason I have ADS off is when again, personal preference. When I'm ADSing in, this is the only game I do this with, by the way. I don't do it in any other game. When I ADS in and I let go, so when I tap to toggle in, I'm putting all my pressure and I'm focusing all of my gameplay on the aiming portion, right? So when I left click and I'm ADSing in, my entire focus is just aim. I don't need to hold down the right click on my mouse while also aiming. Adds pressure to it where I'm just like, I feel like I can control it a lot better where I just toggle. And when I'm toggling, I put all of my focus into just aiming. Now, my video settings. I don't necessarily think these are preference if you're trying to be like a competitive gamer. But of course, if you just play the game casually, this is all up to you. My brightness, I think that right there is just personal preference. FOV ability scaling. This happens when you pop like a Bloodhound ult or anything that changes your FOV. You want this disabled so that way it doesn't mess you up. VSync you always want disabled in any video game that you're playing because this right here limits your frames. So the second you disable this, it basically lets you play at maximum frames. NVIDIA Reflex, enable the boost. I just see everybody put this on. Do I have any idea what the hell this is? Not a clue. Everything you see here, I have texture filtering streaming budget set to medium because I like to just have high definition on the guns and the skins and everything. You can very easily turn this off and it just basically makes the game look ugly. Which is not necessarily bad. It just makes like the guns and the terrain and everything kind of look eh. I have like a really decent PC to where when I turn this on, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother my game. Everything looks really good. You'll see some players have it on, then off. It's all just personal preference. I think at the end of the day, this doesn't really kill your performance too much. It really doesn't hurt. But if you're trying to get the maximum competitive settings, you could definitely put this off. As far as everything else goes, I've always moved everything as low as possible in almost every video game that I've played. I've cross-referenced with pretty much every single person that I've seen. And we have everything off. We have everything off or low. You know, every pro pretty much turns this down. In terms of performance, you want to have the highest FPS possible, but that will bring me to my next point, a very important point in my game. I will explain in a couple seconds, but for audio, personal preference. This is all up to you. So right here, this command line for M&K players on a good computer that has good FPS, you want to maximize your FPS. If you have a 240 hertz monitor, you want this capped at 240 hertz. If your computer can handle it, number one, and your monitor is 240 hertz, you want to cap your game at 240 FPS. The reason why is because the game any higher than that has this weird, like, lagginess to it. If your monitor is 144 hertz, you change that command line to FPS, to basic FPS underscore max 144. So you change it to 144. It will cap your frames at 144. It will not like bleed. Not bleed. It will not like. There's this weird. I can't explain it. You only notice it when you're playing, but you feel like there's like this lag or this input. It's just your input lag, and it's just you can see it and you can feel it, but you can't explain it to somebody. Yeah, there feels like there's a little bit of tearing. Some like micro stutters. Yeah, micro stutters is the best way to put it. You get these weird micro stutters and it's annoying. However, if you have a computer that can handle it, some people maximize this and have different preferences. I know Sweet Dreams, for instance, he does FPS max 239, not even 240. A lot of people actually do FPS max 190. So 190 is a big thing that a lot of people do as well. So this right here is kind of the go-to. The -dev command. So on startup of the game, I'll actually show you on startup of the game, it skips the animation for Apex. So like, you know how sometimes you load up Apex without it, it like does all the does like all the fancy noises and whatnot. It skips all that and brings me straight to the menu. So let's say you DC or you crash, it brings you straight to the screen. Now, the most important and final setting that I'm going to show is my firing range settings. This is going to help you. In my opinion, I think this is, you know, I've ran a couple different things. I put the shield level as epic. It doesn't need to be red armor. I think epic 200 damage is pretty good. Personally, target speed, zipline, you want them to be fast, right? You want the shield level to be pretty strong. You want the movement to be random. Excuse me, strafe is going to be random. So pretty much all targets are always moving. There's no targets that spawn standing still. So that's what you definitely want. Strafe, random. Stance, I want them standing. Movement speed, I want it as run. And shooting, you want this to be set to close range. Dynamic spawn distance, you want it close. Shooting, you want it the maximum difficulty. And dynamic spawn distance, you want close. So you follow these settings right here. You pick up your loadout, you pick up your guns. Now, when you're doing the firing range challenge and or firing range like warm up and things like that, you don't want to stand in one place. You actually want to keep moving. Because in this firing range, as you move, as you kill the bots and you move to the next target, so like let's say I run over here, the bots will actually start to spawn over here. See that? So the bots will actually spawn as you continue to move. So they puts them in different spots and it keeps it going. If I stay in this one spot and I shoot the bots just here and I shoot them, they'll keep respawning, but they'll kind of like respawn either in the same spot or they'll kind of just stop doing the, like, moving, or I don't know, like it sometimes bugs out. But if you keep on moving, the bots will actually start to like run towards you and come from different angles and surprise you. So it's really good practice to just like move and shoot and use the terrain and everything. And now I'm going to show you guys what that kind of looks like. And this right here, in my opinion, is the best way to get better at the game in the practice, in the firing range. So you can get this. And as far as a second gun goes, I think I'm going to grab the Nemi. So right here, boom, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to activate this. So we go customize firing range, shooting. We change it, full combat. I don't know what hard does, actually. I actually never tried that. I think full combat's better. Makes them move, I think. So this is the best way to get better. This is how you practice. You just keep moving. Now, what you could do too is when you get low, you can kind of like go to the boxes and learn to armor swap. And find things, so you're not really like healing, but you're just moving throughout the firing range. And again, they spawn as you move, so you just want to keep moving. And again, using the terrain, and just keep on moving. And they spawn with you, so even if you want to move to a different section, you can. So as I'm moving, they're going to start spawning around me. Oh, and they jump. So again, if you start to feel like you're standing still too much, or they're spawning in one spot, you can just move spots. Now, if you're getting really low, what you could do is you could switch your character in full heal as well. So what you do on M and K specifically, or you know, controller, you could do it too. But you press M, and as long as you select your same character, it will full heal you. If you change characters, it will kind of give you this delay, like where you change your character. But if you switch to the same exact character, there's no delay, there's no anything. You can get right back into the fight and you're full HP. And this is the best way to practice. I aim for a 60%. And then when you're done, you go to customize range and then take off the full combat, and that's it. So when you spawn them close, you want the spawning close, so that way, you know, you can still shoot them at a distance, but the close allows, like, it keeps them pushing towards you, and it keeps them, like, keeps you on your toes of flicking and tracking, and they move just enough to where it feels good. In conclusion of the end of this video, end of this YouTube video, is going to be, this is what you should practice with in the firing range. Pick up a gun, close range SMGs, you know, Nemesis, really, really strong guns. Get in that close range. Shooting bots like this, you know, whether or not shooting back, it's still pretty good. If you want to do that, you can definitely just practice. But I think, you know, turning in that full range combat and having a move just like this is also just really as good as what we used to do, you know, which is that. So really good practice. Now, the last thing I will say actually in this video, there is a movement course with this firing range, and that's pretty much just the combat portion of it. If you wanted to do the movement in the back over here, there's a little movement course that you can practice with that allows you to kind of like wall jump, get over. You can do the super glide off that. You know, super gliding off this is right there. You know, you can do a little bit of practice. So this is definitely good practice. You could practice super jumping with the zip line, which is pressing E, and mouse wheel is my jump, which I personally believe. So if you press E and mouse wheel at the same time, you actually super jump. So super jumping up here is a good practice that you can do if you're having trouble with that. So again, E, super jump. So E and jump at the same time. I believe you could do it with spacebar as well, but it's just not as effective. It's way easier with E and mouse wheel. So E, mouse wheel down, super jump. As you get off the zip line, another thing you could practice too on the zip line is when you jump down, you can you interact and you press crouch. When you interact and press crouch, instead of when you hop off the zip line, a lot of people, what they do is they get on the zip line, or before they get the zip line, they E and they jump. So they do one of these numbers. They jump for like length. But sometimes, like, let's say there's a door, like right here. If I wanted to get off this, right? Let's say I wanted to get into that door. A lot of people do like this, and they'll like miss the door. But what happens is, if you were to jump down and E and then crouch. Oh, well, I messed up. But you E then crouch and you practice this, it gets you into the door. So like that. If you have any questions, you have anything, leave them in my YouTube comments down below, so that way I can figure out what I could try to teach next. But in this firing range, they have so much you could practice, from cooking grenades to super gliding to 1v1ing in the pit to you know, maneuvering through the buildings, mantle jumping, you know, a lot of things you can do. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy it.